Testing, testing, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. There we go. All right, we got audio. So this is the latest European, the Euro model that's coming in, the operational European here. And I was saying that there is a northward shift happening with the bullseye of the heaviest snow. But this area up here is actually the result of two different waves of snow coming through. One on Wednesday, dumping 6 to 10 inches of snow, and then another one dumping 2 to 3 feet of snow on the weekend, Saturday through Sunday, with a maximum bullseye somewhere here in the Nebraska Panhandle could easily get in excess of 3 feet of snow. So you could easily see those scenes of cattle getting buried by those snow drifts that are several feet deep. And even this model, shifting just a little bit north, has that main fort passing through Colorado, igniting the upslope snow machine on Saturday into Sunday across northern Colorado, including Denver. This latest European model is dumping nearly 2 feet of snow, somewhere between 20 and 24 inches to the north of Colorado Springs, Denver, Fort Collins area, up through Cheyenne. Locations in southeastern Wyoming, prime storm chasing country during the heart of summer. But look at these bullseyes up to along the Nebraska-South Dakota border there to the southeast of the Black Hills. Likely on the southeastern side of the Black Hills is going to have a prolonged period of upslope enhanced by the topography there as well. But we also need to focus on the severe weather in the warm sector, and that's what I'm going to be focusing on for storm chasing. I'm about to hit the road right now as I'm doing this live here. And this was the target area map that I posted yesterday, and a couple of these areas have changed just a little bit. I'm going to be targeting Wednesday night, a nocturnal supercell threat right along the southern Kansas area, maybe into far northwestern Oklahoma. I'm kind of honing in on this area right now, northwestern Oklahoma to southern Kansas. There's going to be a late arriving upper level jet stream that's coming in right at about sunset. So it looks like the peak chance of supercells with the main threat being hail is going to be about 7 to 10 p.m. southern Kansas into northwestern Oklahoma on Wednesday night. And then the next area that I'm watching is going to be Saturday. And the latest models are trending a little bit further west with Saturday, maybe western Oklahoma to the eastern Texas Panhandle, there in the warm sector of this system. This is going to be as the upslope snow event is cranking in Colorado, the Colorado foothills, and Denver, and definitely need to expand this area off to the northeast, including the Nebraska Panhandle. That needs to be adjusted. And then on Sunday, the low-level jet shifts way off to the east out over the lower Mississippi River Valley. That's the area I'm going to be watching for a tornado threat, maybe central eastern Arkansas through northern Mississippi. And then next week is looking pretty active. There's a lot of model divergence through the week next week, but I think Dixie Alley is going to wake up somewhere between March 15th and March 18th or 19th in there. Maybe another wave coming in behind this one could be an issue. Kind of a subtropical connection developing as well, so I could certainly see Dixie Alley waking up next week, but that's just way too far out to tell right now. So first we want to go through the evolution of the upper jet, but I wanted to discuss my target area in greater detail on Wednesday night. I think that the main threat is going to be hail, but looking at some of the forecast photographs, it definitely looks like there is a threat for supercells and even a threat of tornadoes as well, with that low-level jet strengthening, increasing above 40 knots. You've got a 100-knot upper jet that's going to be punching into the southern plains, even though that upper jet does arrive just a little bit late. That means that threat's going to be more nocturnal. I do think that there still is a non-zero chance of a tornado. It's probably going to be a 2% day up here, southern Kansas and in northwestern Oklahoma. And I think that there's going to be a line of storms that goes all the way up the front through eastern Kansas, up even toward the Kansas City area too, and probably have some isolated severe weather up there. But this is my main target area across basically southern Kansas to the west of Wichita as that jet streak punches in. And this is that upper level jet streak that's going to be punching in on Wednesday. This is at 0Z, and that upper jet is just arriving to the southern plains. This is kind of the core of the upper jet here. This is above 500. This is at 300 millibars coming in here. This is our big upper level storm system back in California that's going to be closing off and then passing to the south of Denver with a prolonged period of upslope flow to the north of it, especially southeastern Wyoming into the Nebraska Panhandle. Denver getting a couple feet of snow potentially, and we're still so far out on that event on Saturday that those exact amounts are going to fluctuate quite a bit between now and then, but I know everybody's talking about it and fired up right now. But there is a lead upper jet streak that heads into Iowa, bringing with it the chance of severe weather across parts of northeastern Iowa as well with this system. But then a late arriving jet streak comes into the southern plains at about 0Z, and that's going to ignite storms between 0Z and 3Z between about 6 p.m. and 11 p.m. There on Wednesday evening. There is definitely a threat of some surface-based supercells there in southern Kansas and in northwestern Oklahoma. We're going to be looking at that in detail as well later on in this briefing. And then I'm probably going to hang around in that area for Saturday, where that closed low across Colorado is going to have a low-level jet axis that's somewhere across the southern plains, maybe western Oklahoma into northwestern Texas there. Right now the models are showing pretty modest instability out there, but I do think there's going to be greater instability than what the GFS is showing, as the GFS is certainly biased low with the instability of these systems. I think once we get within the range of the NAM and the HRRR on Saturday, you're going to see a pretty nice arc-shaped instability axis here across western Oklahoma on Saturday with pretty favorable dynamics, a 40 to 50 knot low-level jet there. So I'll have to decide between chasing the warm sector down into western Oklahoma on Saturday, following that east into the lower Mississippi River Valley on Sunday, and then regrouping in Dixie Alley for the following week, as I'm going to be turning 41 during that week, still chasing hard. And this is a jet streak that I'm watching though first for Wednesday night, punching into southern Oklahoma, and Wednesday night nocturnal severe weather threat there. And then on Saturday, that system is going to eject across the southern plains with a nice arc-shaped instability axis across western Oklahoma. And then on Sunday, pushing east across parts of the lower Mississippi River Valley and Arkansas. And I think there's going to be some bigger Dixie Alley events next week that we're going to look at as the new European model is coming in. And it is important to look at the ensembles of this, not just the operational models, but we're trying to get just a gist of what's going on first. We'll look at the operational model here, and then we'll look at the ensembles as well to kind of see the confidence within the different models. We'll look at the difference between the European and the GFS operational runs, and then we'll look at the ensembles to assess the confidence of each one. So this is the forecast on Thursday. I'll back it up just a bit. This is Wednesday, 0Z, Wednesday evening. You can see this jet streak, according to the high-resolution European, punching through the southern plains. This is at 500 here. You've got a lead jet streak, though, coming into Iowa, which could bring some severe weather up there as well. We'll look at the thermodynamics of those two target areas. Thursday looks like some ridging builds in across the southern plains. Could be some isolated storms and maybe even some severe weather despite this ridging aloft, but widespread severe weather looks like it's going to take a breather on Thursday as our main storm system is deepening across California. Big closed low out there, slight positive tilt. It's going to go neutral. That thing's going to further close off even more as it approaches the Mountain West. Look at this big ridge building in above that storm system that's closed off, ridging over the southern plains. Again on Friday is going to prevent big severe weather on Friday, but you can see the upper level dynamics ejecting here across the four corners on Friday evening. You're already going to start to get some snow breaking out downstream of that jet streak, upper dynamics, a little bit of vorticity of action given an egg-shaped upper level low out there. You're already going to be starting with some upslope across northeastern Colorado as well. Between 850 and 700, you're going to get some easterlies. So that upslope is going to start already on Friday evening out there. And then watch this system take that perfect track as it closes off, becoming a very compact bowling ball over the Four Corners region. This is by 18Z Saturday. Quite a bit of vorticity of action downstream given the asymmetries here in this vort. You're going to have heavy snow breaking out across Colorado. And look at the upper jet dynamics here, surging through the Texas Panhandle into the southern plains, into western Oklahoma with a dry line setting up. Southwesterly upper jet in excess approaching 80 knots there at 500 millibars, moving into the southern plains. Definitely has the potential of bringing severe weather in an arc-shaped instability axis across western Oklahoma into northwestern Texas there. But look at this system close off over the four corners and then slide to the east, bringing with it upslope just on the northern side of it. Look at that thing close off just to the south of Denver. This is on Sunday morning, 7 a.m. Sunday morning. Big upslope, even with a connection all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico. Here's the 850 winds. You can really see the upslope over the high plains, focusing over the Nebraska Panhandle, southwestern South Dakota, slamming into the eastern side of the Black Hills as well. And that upslope connection fetch goes all the way down to the western Gulf of Mexico, where dew points are in the 70s down there in the western Gulf of Mexico. So this storm system has a deep tropical connection, big conveyor belt of moisture going from the Gulf of Mexico all the way up through the southern plains. This is on Sunday morning, so that low-level jet axis is in eastern Oklahoma by this time, starting to move in to Arkansas, where the severe weather threat could set up on that day, on Sunday. But look at this big conveyor belt of moisture going all the way up from the Gulf of Mexico into the Nebraska Panhandle, northeastern Colorado, southeastern Wyoming, just getting hammered up there as this upper system closes off just in time across east central Colorado. But you can see how there's a lot of uncertainty because right along the center track of this vort, there's not going to be a very prolonged period of upslope. The upslope happens just to the north of that vort max. That's the 850 low. Going up to 500, you can see it's basically a vertically stacked system from the upper troposphere all the way down to the lower troposphere here. Deep upslope, though, from 850 millibars all the way up to 500 into the middle part of the atmosphere. So this is going to be an incredible storm system. Different than the bomb cyclone we chased a couple of years ago, though. This one doesn't have as much of a surface low. You don't have that bombing out surface low. You got about 1,000 millibar low here, but tight isobars to the north of it with a 1043 high anchored over central Canada. You still have, despite a modest surface reflection here, with a vertically stacked low from the surface with 1,000 millibars all the way up to 500, you still have that upslope component there. Northeastern Colorado, right along the border into southwestern South Dakota and the Nebraska Panhandle, just getting hammered there. Probably will have blizzard warnings as well with those isobars so tight. There's definitely going to be some big-time winds associated with that as well. Look at that big-time snow just hammering the Nebraska Panhandle. And look at this huge conveyor belt of moisture all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico. This is going to be a squall line by Sunday morning, surging through central Oklahoma to eastern Oklahoma with maybe a line of storms then moving into Arkansas there. It's possible that they could break apart and develop a tornado threat across portions of Arkansas and the lower Mississippi River Valley on Thursday afternoon. But definitely a conveyor belt of moisture, a plume just hammering the Nebraska Panhandle there, northeastern Colorado, with this incredible upslope snow event at Sunday morning. Sunday afternoon there, the plume is going to be focusing across the northern Nebraska Panhandle and eastern Wyoming. That's where the max is right now with this low. There's the surface low down there, 1,000 millibars. Getting well separated from the warm sector a bit. It's going to be pushing into Arkansas by this time. By Sunday afternoon, at least according to the European model, shows a potential for severe weather across Arkansas. But snow continues across northern Colorado Sunday evening into the 15th. Still have upslope there with that meandering low getting blocked by that monster high across the northern Great Lakes upstream. You still have that conveyor belt of moisture squeezing between the two, going from the Gulf of Mexico all the way up through northern Nebraska there, toward northeastern Colorado, southeastern Wyoming. Big plume of moisture punching into that zone. So really the snow is going to be an incredible story of this thing. And that surface low still just meandering off to the east. It's possible then on Monday, the 15th, a pretty big Dixie Alley event could take shape here over portions of Mississippi and Alabama. That's also going to be an event that I'm going to be keeping a very close eye on out there across Dixie. In fact, there could be Dixie Alley could come alive quite a bit during the week next week. But this system just kind of meandering. Here's the one coming in behind it that could bring us another severe weather threat later on in the week in Dixie. And look at this double-barreled system here. What an unusual pattern. Man, gotta be kidding me. You can see there's going to be a lot of uncertainty associated with this pattern as well. It's Possible another Dixie setup coming in there for my birthday around March 17th next week, but just too much uncertainty for this. But you definitely do have a general cyclonic flow to the upper jet here across the southern plains. A bit of a subtropical ridge to the southeast of the southeastern U.S. and in the inflection zone between is Dixie Alley. So I do think there's going to be a pretty active week next week across Dixie Alley. But first we got to get through this big-time bomb cyclone here that's going to dump feet of snow across Colorado. So here is the GFS, just to look at the differences. And the GFS was dumping about 4 feet of snow for portions of Colorado before. This is also the 12Z GFS. It's a little bit further south than the European. So the European takes that egg of a compact vortex, the operational European, through east central Colorado, where the operational GFS is a little bit further south, down near the Colorado-New Mexico border, which would prolong the upslope even greater there across northeastern Colorado. It does look like the high resolution GFS is getting a little bit closer to the European, which would prolong longer upslope there from the Nebraska Panhandle into southeastern Wyoming and the southeastern side of the Black Hills there. Sorry for that. Is that my phone? Who keeps calling? Spam calls keep coming in. But this is on Monday then, setting the stage for severe weather downstream. And this could be portions of northern Mississippi, Tennessee on Monday, Alabama as well. Get a bit of a subtropical connection with this system that's finally going to kick this closed upper low out to the east. With that subtropical connection, you get a little cyclonic enhancement here on the southern side of that vort as it ejects across Dixie Alley. So there's that moisture axis there on Monday evening across Dixie Alley. Portions of Mississippi, Alabama could get into the action. It's a high-resolution GFS. And I'm using the pivotalweather.com website here. But really just kind of look at the evolution of the upper jet. And boy, the GFS, you can see the differences in the evolution of the upper system into next week between the European and the GFS. The GFS digging south, this stronger kicker system with it. With that stronger kicker system, I see a better chance of significant severe weather across portions of Dixie Alley next week around March 17th. But this is just the GFS, so confidence is pretty low in the evolution of this for next week. Confidence, though, is pretty high in the evolution of this snowstorm for portions of Colorado. Using a 10-to-1 snowfall ratios just for fun. Let's see what the latest operational GFS has. And it still has 40 inches of snow here across Colorado. But if you remember that latest Arctic blast across Oklahoma and northern Texas, the GFS was pumping out 30 to 40 inches of snow as well across Oklahoma. Didn't even come close to verifying. Maybe had about 10 to 14 inches. But that further south track definitely prolongs the upslope even greater across Colorado, including Denver, greater than 3 feet of snow, according to this. But that's just the operational model. Other members within the GFS suite show a lot less than that. And here is the European model showing 20 to 24 inches across northern Colorado, including Denver, north of Colorado Springs, and prolonging that plume of upslope for a longer period of time from the Nebraska Panhandle into eastern Wyoming with that further north track at the very closed upper level low through east central Colorado. Still, though, that brings big upslope across north central Colorado, portions of Denver, Fort Collins, as well, still getting in excess of 20 inches of snow. So now let's go to the severe weather side of things. And this is going to be the setup on Wednesday evening. This is the 3-kilometer NAM that you're looking at here. And just to show you my target area for Wednesday, this is where I'm looking here. Southern Kansas, just to the west of Wichita, maybe into northwestern Oklahoma. We'll start off with the 3-kilometer NAM here. And you can see a nice plume of near 60 dew points across western Oklahoma into south central Kansas to the west of Wichita. Kind of a skinny Cape axis. This is at 10 p.m. So this is at 0Z. Bit of a 1,500 joules per kilogram Cape axis, but the Cape axis is quite skinny on Wednesday evening. And many of the models don't initiate storms until after 7 p.m., 7 to 10 p.m. across south central Kansas, eastern Kansas, maybe along the front as well. Very skinny Cape axis, though, across northeastern Kansas toward Kansas City area. Really much thicker axis down south central Kansas into northwestern Oklahoma. Looking at some of the forecast photographs here. Kind of some weird shaped photographs, but they do have potential with that low-level jet peaking above about 40 knots there. Find a better one. Boy, these models are not are not very confident in the initiation of storms. But the 3-kilometer NAM does show by 10 p.m. some storms developing in western Oklahoma, and then kind of a skinny line of storms unzipping along that front from northeastern Kansas on into central Kansas. Maybe another cluster of storms across south central Kansas ahead of that jet streak. By 10 p.m., though, you can see the low-level jet in excess of 50 knots here into south central Kansas, northwestern Oklahoma, ahead of that strong upper jet punching into the southern plains. So there should be some soundings that are favorable for a tornado threat in there somewhere, but you can see a deep stable layer right near the surface there. So any supercells that do develop will need to drill through that shallow stable layer. You see this low-level jet increasing about 50 knots, giant hook-shaped photograph there. Boy, it looks like chances of getting a surface-based storm they really are gonna have to drill through a pretty deep stable layer here. There you can see some of those forecast photographs. 0 to 1 kilometer EHIs and this 3-kilometer NAM kind of show you a good target area there across south central Kansas. There's that instability plume, south central Kansas into northwestern Oklahoma. I'm going to be watching closely. West of Wichita. Decent photographs. You do have this little bit of veer between above a kilometer, between 1 and 3 kilometers there. That could be a bit of an issue, but really that's been proven irrelevant when you get a 0 to 1 kilometer shear vector this long. Pushing 50 knots there with a surface wind of about 10 knots. A lot of decoupling here in the low levels, a deep stable layer. That's going to be really the deal breaker for a tornado threat. But there's a lot of instability aloft. You're probably going to get some big hail, even with these supercells just elevated slightly above the shallow stable layer, 60 over 59 there. But once you get those mesocyclones going, they could be very capable of drilling through this stable layer. You may remember that Plains, Kansas event. There is that forecast photograph. All the area there between the photograph curve and that storm motion vector. Due east-northeasterly storm motions at about 35 knots. creating a critical angle that's relatively close to 90 degrees. So kinematically, it looks quite favorable. If we had some deeper moisture for this event on Wednesday evening, if this were in April or May, we'd probably be talking about an outbreak of tornadoes here. Pretty thick cape as well, a sign of things to come for the Southern Plains and Dixie Alley with this severe weather season. We're only at about 25 tornadoes for 2021, quite a bit below normal, even behind last year at this time. But remember, 2011 had a slow start as well, and eventually the bottom's going to drop out of tornado season. We're going to have a bunch of tornadoes, probably going to be through next week, this weekend. I think we're going to definitely be coming back in terms of our tornado counts here. So that's just the 3-kilometer NAM. If you look at the HRRR, it's a little bit more progressive with that instability axis here, a little bit more southwest to northeast oriented. Probably a weaker low-level jet as compared to the 3-kilometer NAM. Well, no, you still get the 50-knot southwest to northeast-oriented low-level jet. Maybe a bit of a meso-low here in east-central Kansas. Could be an idea. Keep an eye out for that meso-low. And up near where this cluster of storms forms. So this is at 3Z according to the HRRR. This is at 9 p.m., showing a cluster of rotating storms developing across central Kansas, pretty close to the I-35 corridor by about 8 p.m. So you can see this cluster of storms developing through eastern Kansas along this front. Southerlies enhancing, low-level jet developing as well. So it looks like these are going to be relatively surface-based. Let's look at some of the forecast soundings here. This is the Cape, and it's a little bit further north, so it looks a lot different than the 3-kilometer NAM. It'll be interesting to see as we go through the evening tonight if the HRRR trends toward the 3-kilometer NAM a bit, and we can pull this instability axis further west. Looks like more of a dry line type of a feature across western Oklahoma to south central Kansas, as indicated by the 3-kilometer NAM. But in this case, you just kind of have a general frontal boundary from southwest to northeast, with the greatest cape in south central Kansas, according to the HRRR. Looking at a forecast sounding, definitely going to generate some surface-based instability with 69 over 54, sub 20 degree dew point spreads, pretty good cape above it, elevated mix layer there, quite a bit high above the ground. But look at these more favorable photographs looking at the HRRR just below my head there. You can see the 1-kilometer wind in excess of 40 knots there. A lot less of that veer-back veer type of a profile. East-northeasterly storm motions of about 35 knots. A lot of storm relative helicity indicated there. Close to 300 0 to 1 kilometer storm relative helicity being produced by this photograph. Quite a bit of turning in the wind profile in the low levels there. Pretty steep lapse rates as well. Less of a presence of a stable layer, too, in the low levels, even at 3Z. So the HRRR is quite a bit more favorable, I would say, thermodynamically at the low levels compared to the 3-kilometer NAM, even though I do like the dry line structure more, the north-south oriented boundary there of the 3-kilometer NAM. So if we can kind of take a combination of the HRRR and the 3-kilometer NAM, I can definitely see a lot of nocturnal events here, though, by 9 to 10, 11 p.m. Even the HRRR has some hints of convective initiation across northern Oklahoma there. And then look at these storms evolving across eastern Kansas, kind of overshooting the axis of surface-based instability by this time. There you can see the instability across south-central Kansas. So these storms become elevated over east-central Kansas there. A lot of lightning by 4Z. So really the window is about 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. here across south-central Kansas, maybe down into northern Oklahoma, especially if you do take kind of a hybrid of the 3-kilometer NAM and the HRRR, which does kind of back this up a bit as a dry line as you go through the evening. It is a bit of a dry line. You got dew points there in the teens to the west of it. It's just that the HRRR has it more of a southwest to northeast oriented dry line with a pool of moisture further east, whereas the HRRR, or the 3-kilometer NAM, has more of a north-south oriented dry line here across south-central Kansas with more of a front. This looks like more of a believable surface front structure configuration with this front across northern Kansas, the dry line south of that, a bit of a triple point here across south central Kansas, and some deeper moisture pooling across south central Kansas as well. And then on Friday, look at all this moisture pooling in the NAM. This is on Friday, the moisture pooling across the southern plains, getting ready for the Saturday arrival of that upper jet streak across the southern plains. I think Saturday, western Oklahoma looks to be a pretty favorable event. It's beyond the range of the NAM, so we'll use the GFS for this. That pool of moisture consolidates along a dry line in the eastern Texas panhandle, according to the new GFS. So northwestern Texas into western Oklahoma, even that eastern Texas panhandle, 2 points jumping into 60 there this time of year, March 14. That's a big deal out there in the Texas panhandle. It's also got a pretty tight low-level jet. There's the low-level jet evolving by Saturday evening there across western Oklahoma along the border, tightening up as you go just after sunset there across western Oklahoma. Probably going to have an arc of supercells moving from northwestern Texas through western Oklahoma on this day. There you can see by 6Z that line of storms moving into western Oklahoma by this time. Big upslope snow continuing. Big plume of big upslope across the Nebraska Panhandle into eastern Wyoming, of course into Colorado too, Denver into the foothills. Here in the warm sector, the GFS hinting at a line of storms moving into western Oklahoma on Saturday. And then the warm sector getting separated from the upper level dynamics, pushing way off to the east on Sunday out there through eastern Arkansas. And I'll be watching that on Sunday, likely chasing that east as that surface low meanders into northwestern Oklahoma by this time. Banana-shaped surface low, upslope continuing Sunday night, even across northeastern Colorado. Changing over to snow, possibly for Omaha here. I know my Omaha Twister Chaser fans are probably watching this. So that's really the latest with this snow event. I'm going to have to decide whether I focus on the severe weather or the snow, but I'm definitely leaning toward just focusing on severe weather since it is spring. Covered a lot of snow during the winter. I'm going to bring the subsonic sensor out with me, try to collect some microbarometer data around these tornadoes and supercell storms. Got about a 15-and-a-half drive between here and Wichita, so it definitely is about time to hit the road. But thank you, everybody. Please check out our Facebook supporter community. We have our Storm Chase EDU class coming up tomorrow night. It's basically going to be a real-time nowcast of this nocturnal severe weather event across southern Kansas and northwestern Oklahoma, breaking down some of our severe weather forecasting tools that we learn over time. And that's exclusively for Facebook supporters Wednesday night at 7 p.m., 6 p.m. Central out there. Probably be about an hour or so before storms are initiating or right as they're developing. And I'll likely be somewhere to the west of Wichita, maybe near the Pratt area, waiting for that severe weather to materialize. So thank you, everybody, for joining me this Tuesday afternoon. Never stop chasing.